So what if you train them up to so many levels that they go and start their own business? Great, because that person is going to speak highly of you because you gave them the skills and education and resources. Maybe that person's not in a position to hire anybody, but they'll send them your way, and you get to do it over. Now you're building this brand of you are this person that truly cares.
Hello and welcome to the Elevate podcast. I'm your host, Patricia Nowakowski. I'm a salon owner, educator, mindset, and leadership coach that helps salon owners go from overwhelmed and burnt out to motivated and empowered. It is my mission to help you systemize your business, generate more profit, and create a career that you love. Join us every week to learn about the small shifts you can make to elevate your business regarding mindset, marketing, social media, business systems, and so much more. This week on the Elevate podcast, I'm excited to sit down with Ken Lewis. Ken is an executive program leader and corporate facilitator of the Maxwell Leadership Certified Team. His passion is to teach others how to be successful through personal development and to help people transform their lives by becoming better versions of themselves through coaching, mentoring, and speaking. Today, we're going to be talking about servant leadership and how this type of leadership can transform your salon.
So my name is Ken Lewis. I am a business coach, also work in the sales and marketing training, leadership development, team development, and I'm starting to use my change management experience for organizational redesign. So that's kind of been a passion of mine. I'm a retired Air Force veteran. I did 20 years active duty. I did the last 13 years as a bomb squad technician. So there was a lot of that environment that I had to leave behind, and decided to try to make my mark and kind of get some freedom over my own life, doing my own entrepreneurial thing.
I love that so much. And I love this topic today because I feel like in our industry, in the salon industry, leadership really lacks and toxic leadership runs rampant. So the first question I have about this topic today is tell us a little bit about what servant leadership is and how it can be super transformative for salon owners or anyone in our industry.
Absolutely. Servant leadership is really having somebody take the time to put somebody else's values and needs before their own. And a lot of that is just in the military. You said the phrase for a little while, getting to know your people, know their story, know your airman's story. The good thing about that is it took me a while to understand this. I thought it was just, another political thing, but knowing their story actually drives a lot of who that person is, why they make the decisions that they do, their culture, their background, especially a day and age when diversity is so important. Knowing that everybody's background, cultural experiences really does contribute to the overall environment that you're in. So it's taking the time to understand who is in your environment and really what makes them tick.
And how would you say that this differs from the traditional leadership model that most people use inside of their companies and businesses?
I can definitely say a lot of the times, I used to call it the knife-handed leadership. You might hear in the military going around and just cutting everybody with a knife hand. You will do what you were told to do. And the difference is instead of putting the boss on a pedestal, instead of this being a top-down type of hierarchy, you really are trying to build the culture and the environment from the bottom up. And it's not that you are absolving yourself of your position or of your authority and so forth, but it really is trying to build an environment to where the people feel included and that they feel heard and they really feel part of the team, which is very different from that CEO top down, not getting to know, being really disconnected, not understanding what's happening right there on the floor, shoulder to shoulder, and just coming at it with a different approach and mentality that, hey, everybody has some kind of value they can add no matter where they are in that hierarchy.
So what kind of results should people expect when they actually embody servant leadership, and who really benefits the most from this type of leadership?
Great. So I am a John Maxwell coach. I don't know if I said it in the beginning, and the most recent training that they gave us on, putting a different spin on this, it was great. His view was shame cultures are those cultures that are going to benefit the most. But I'm like, okay, what is a shame culture? What exactly does that mean? The first thing that comes to mind is Game of Thrones, and pretty sure that's not what he was referring to. But in the shame culture is are those environments where maybe you are belittling people in public, you're handling your administrative duties, or you're going to admonish somebody out in front of everybody else, you're allowing the gossip and the back talk and all those negative behaviors that should not occur in a work center, and those things change it from a healthy work environment to one that could be toxic, leading down to a violent workplace center, right? Because then your words can cut. So those are the first entities that could really take one of those inward looks and see, hey, are we fostering a shame culture? Are we allowing and not really doing anything about, or not effective with how we are trying to eliminate some of those behaviors, such as the gossiping and the shaming and belittling of others? Some of the results that you would start to see is going to be that nature of, one, the inclusiveness. People are going to start feeling part of a team. Now, the caveat to this is not a simple journey. This is not something that, you read a book and you can implement it. In fact, I thought I was doing a good job when I was still in the military 4 years ago. And, I just learned 2 years ago that, man, I probably was handling that a little bit incorrectly, because I've only grasped bits and pieces, and the way I was applying it, it was ineffective. So I think really taking the time to understand what this is that you are trying to ask people to change environment to something that would benefit everybody. They might not see it right away. And in doing so, that positive energy, that employee engagement, if you're looking at any type of innovation, you'll start getting feedback for any type of innovative type ideas, where it'd be like, hey, what if we tried this? What if we tried that? And they'll just feel heard. And that feeling and that belief of being heard is going to change everything dramatically, even though there's going to be some rough obstacles along the way.
I think shame culture, if that's what we're going to call it, is one of the things that definitely runs rampant in the salon industry. A lot of salon owners think that new stylists should pay their dues and almost treat them kind of like servants, like expecting them to clean up, expecting them to do certain things, expecting them to sit in the salon unpaid for free because it's part of the process, or it's part of them serving their time. And in reality, like, these are the things that have really broken down our industry and really pushed people to go to independent, or go to open their own chairs or their own micro salons. And it really has given commission salons a bad name, when the commission structure itself with good leadership is really beneficial for both stylist and salon owner. So what are some things that you could suggest for a salon owner who kind of is in this place where they see that their culture is toxic? They know and are starting to realize that maybe their leadership style is not a healthy leadership style, and they want to start to transform this part of their business, but they kind of don't know where to begin. How would you guide them to start implementing these things to become more of a servant leader, to start really transforming their space before, say, like, their entire team leaves, or so that they can actually get stylists to work inside of their salon?
I think the fact that they're asking that question is a great first step. Simply just recognizing that I could be part of the problem. How am I enabling this culture to go this way? And going out for resources. You can't just read a book and implement it and think that that's all it's going to take, because you have to get the buy-in from everybody else. A lot of change. I don't know why I love change management so much, but what I've learned is there really is, when it comes to people management and change management, there's a theory that you want to try to motivate them to a certain type of result, but we can't really motivate. We don't have the control to motivate anybody. That's not what we can do. Is create an environment where now the intrinsic motivators exist and they want to change to a certain behavior. So we have an end state in mind. This is the environment I want. We can convey that message. Oh, hey, this is the direction we're going. This is what I would like to see. I would like to bring you guys in on this. And then as the leader in that organization, start holding people accountable to whatever it is that you are saying. This is going to be the new direction. Accountability is another hard part too. And just due to the fact that there's not a lot of people that like to handle conflict, even if it's healthy conflict. So the way they approach that could be maybe not the most effective method. And then also they might be fearful of not being, likable, and being liked is important, but so is also establishing a culture that you can be proud of and really thrive in. one of the things when you were speaking a moment ago of the, pay your dues, there was it stimulated a thought process I had when in the military for the bomb squad. There definitely is a amount of time that you have to have under your belt before you can reach, a team leader certified and so forth as you go up. But one of the things that I've always credited others for is we had in the military in general a bad habit of coming in and looking at somebody's sleeve right away. Oh, look, he's only got 2 stripes. He's only got 3 stripes, and then automatically put them in a tier. Well, he doesn't know anything. He's in his tier. But what we also don't understand is he might be a 35-year-old brand new to the industry. He might not have the same experience as a bomb technician or whatever that skill is, but he has a ton of life skills. Like there are contributions they can still make as a human being, maybe not in a specific technical lane, but that ingenuity is going to come up in another problem solving scenario where you're like, oh, amazing, and you treat them like a human from the get-go. They're going to want to participate and help you problem solve. If they're not valued from the beginning, then why are they going to waste their time helping you with whatever problem, even though they might know the answer because it was something they face day to day, So just another way to look at that everybody has some type of experience to bring to the table.
I love that, because that is another problem I think in our industry. And that's one of the things that the coaching company I work for is trying to eliminate, is these different tiered systems and different tiered levels inside of the salons. So if you're like your level 1 stylist, your level 2 stylist, your level 5 stylist, when in reality, these new people coming in do have so much more life experience. I mean, there's so much education on the internet and there's so much drive and passion. So those tiers really don't matter, because it is the life experience that they are receiving now, or the education that they really have at their fingertips, that are really producing these amazing stylists that really just want to get started immediately. And with that judgment coming in where, oh, you just got out of beauty school, or you've only been doing hair for a year, it really does limit the potential for growth for the salon owner and for the stylist, which no stylist, and especially no younger generation, wants to be held down. They want to grow at a rapid rate. Everyone wants something instantly. Absolutely. So taking that mindset out of, you only have this much experience or you're here, really does limit the owner of the salon, and it really does really limit the stylist in itself from growth. So it's a lose-lose. So I love that you touched base on that.
Well, if you have people that are identifying that know that, hey, this person's weaker, then they should take it upon themselves to help educate that individual, not ridicule them, but make your environment better, because by their success is also going to contribute to your success. And it's I think it's like one of these things that I would, as clients come in, customers and so forth, they really belong to the organization. So in this essence, it would belong to the salon. And that would be another thing, is you don't want a stylist to leave and have a list of clientele to take with them. No, that clientele belongs to the salon. And the way that would happen is if there's that consistency amongst the team as a whole, they can come in, anybody can sit down with any stylist and kind of have the same expectations of that environment, that experience, right? Now, yes, everybody has a different skill level, but the experience should be fairly similar. So that way, no matter who is there working, the experience should be, replicated. So being able to take care of your team, take care of that environment is just going to benefit the organization and benefit the company, and pretty much everybody to the left and right of you.
Yeah. And another thing that I love that you touched base on is accountability. This is the number one struggle that all of my students have. They don't want to hold their team accountable. They're afraid to make them upset. They're afraid people will leave. But there's a difference between discipline and accountability. And I would love for you to touch base on what your definition of those two things are, because they're completely different things. Sure. Accountability, I think, is somebody being held to a certain standard, a company standard, and really creating a culture with intention and creating an environment because everyone wants to be at that same level or is trying to be at the same level. Whereas discipline is, shaming and doing all the things to make people feel bad to kind of push them into a behavior. So what would you say your definition of accountability and discipline is? I would love to hear that.
Sure. Thank you for that. For accountability, the way I would interpret it is that we are coming to an agreement on terms that when I step into this role, I step into this environment or whatever that may be, that the expectations are given to me or were shared. And I'm agreeing to that. And now if I sway from these expectations, then it's either up to me to hold myself accountable to say, yes, I need to correct myself because I am falling off the track, or I should have a peer or some other say, hey, you're falling off. You need to kind of like change this because you're not really living by the values that you said you wanted to live by, right? So it's not necessarily, it's kind of like that, those candid conversations or the radical candid conversations you have to have by saying, are you really demonstrating the person that you wanted to be? Because this is kind of different than what we've stated. Now that's an extremely nice way to do it. And maybe that'll be like the first one or two incidences where we're like, hey, what's going on? Are you straying? And the good thing about that too, is if that individual has something going on at home, financially, mentally, relationships, something like that, those could be indicators if they're straying off the path. It might not just be a disciplinary or behavior issue. It could be there's another factor at home that's really taking that person's mind off the situation, and getting to know your people. You can sit down, have a conversation, and then try to lay that support again from human being to human being. For the discipline side of the house, I actually look at that as two ways as well. On the discipline, there is my discipline, my commitment, my ability to stay on path, stay on a track, and have the discipline and the fortitude to kind of just push through. This is what I said I'm going to do. I'm going to have the discipline to take these habits. I'm going to wake up at 5 o'clock every morning and so forth, right? But then there's also like the negative connotation of discipline, the child rearing, or we in the military, we call it progressive discipline. It would be the steps that we would take off. Hey, I'm going to do this feedback session. We're going to have this face-to-face conversation. And then we're going to, take a step up to where now I got to document it. And then, kind of goes up this ladder of the proper steps. And unfortunately, there's good and bad. The good thing is that at least you're trying to find the right tool to readjust unwanted behavior. But the bad thing about it is that you start thinking that if I start going up this ladder, now I'm just keeping a paper trail. So that way, if I have to let you go, I have a legal justification in doing so. So at one point, it turns from a corrective tool to a document trail. And I think once it starts getting to that document trail is really where you need to have the conversation is like, is this the right person for the job? Because the tool is not designed for document trail.
I love that, because you're right. There is technically two definitions of discipline. Like I am very disciplined with certain things in my life, right? Like going to the gym, working out, eating healthy, like those are all things that's positive discipline. And then you have what you said, the other type of discipline, which is really kind of, pushing that paper trail and really documenting and just kind of, working through that, which I thought was great.
I think that's the first thing that comes to most people's mind when they hear the word discipline. They don't think about that internal self-control. They just think about, mama's going to grab the whip, go get me a switch, boy. Right.
So one other thing that I wanted to, actually, there was a couple of things that I wanted to ask. So what kind of transformation have you seen when people decide that they want to transform or change their leadership style inside of their business or however you work with your clients? What are some of the big transformations that you've experienced for these people that you work with?
I would have to say the biggest one would be with them internally first. For example, there was one individual that when we initially were having discussions, he wanted to do a type of Lean Six Sigma process improvement manufacturing business. And as we were looking through the processes, there were some inefficiencies, but deep down, after you really start taking the blinders off and kind of coming out and taking that bird's eye view, I realized that there was just no engagement. People were showing up and they were just clocking in, clocking out. They were just, paying the bills. And after a while, I was able to kind of ask and solicit out individuals that this was an environment where they didn't know what they were doing. Like, why are they doing it? It was just a job. So no mission, no vision, no purpose. They weren't really attached to it. So once you have those conversations with the business leader and be like, these guys, they're looking for a why. Like they're looking for something that they can align themselves with. And it's your job to give that to them. And I think that transformation in itself is just huge because it increases that self-awareness. You're able to start really looking inward and be like, okay, these are my gaps. And not that is not wrong or bad, but these are some things that I can now start working on and then pass that on. Because that's the biggest thing about servant leadership is being able to develop the people around you. So by taking the time to develop yourself, and then that's going to be the start of it, because you have to walk the talk. You have to be able to demonstrate the culture that you want. And if you can't, this was a huge failure of mine in the military, thinking that I was doing good by asking people, hey, what do you need? What do you need to do your job more effectively? But then I would also be the guy in the morning meeting that be, hey, you SDF up, and I would just go into this whole master sergeant mode and thinking it was part of the culture and it was normal. But then I was like, what message am I sending here? One day I really do care because I would want to make sure that they could stay alive and have all the resources they needed to do the job. But then on the next day, I'm yelling at them for something stupid. They're not pets, they're not animals. And I think I wish I would have had that revelation a long time ago, or much, much sooner in my life, because what I thought I was doing good by asking what do you need, I wasn't really consistent in my behavior, and it was demonstrating poor practice. So just getting over that hump of identifying yourself, self-aware, and being consistent with and one of the things that I did was a leadership philosophy. So I have this little 2-page document that says, this is how I want to hold myself accountable. So when I go into organizations, go to somebody that's like, this is my leadership philosophy. These are the things that, like, if I veer from this, here's what you can say, hey, Ken, this is not you. But then I also have another little segment in there, like, these are my no-goes. These are the areas, like, if I see any of this, any back talking, any belittling, any, there's like this whole list, like, this is not an environment that I want to be in. And by me establishing that and giving that to the people that I work with or for or whomever, it allows them, back to accountability, it allows me to say, hey, this is what you can hold me to. This is what I am agreeing. And if I deviate, you have the authority, or you have permission to don't knock me out, but at least tell me, right? So how important the self-awareness journey is in all that, because it just snowballs from there. It really does.
Yeah, I talk about self-awareness all the time with my students, because knowing your triggers, knowing your why, knowing your non-negotiables, knowing how to communicate those things, knowing all those things makes you a better person. It makes you a better leader when you can clearly understand who you are and what makes you tick. It helps you actually set the example, and it really does help you lead in a powerful, very, very powerful way. So I love that you touched on self-awareness. That's a huge part of emotional intelligence, which is really, really important. What are some last final thoughts you have to help motivate salon owners to get started or to take their servant leadership efforts to the next level?
For servant leadership, if you're really looking at trying to build an inclusive environment, there's 2 questions that you can ask of yourself and of your team every day that is a good starting point for anybody. And those questions are going to be, first, how do I add value to people? And how do I serve people? And if you can't answer that yet, you don't really know how you do, then how can I add value to people? How can I serve people? And then start putting that on agenda. But it needs to be something that you should ask daily. And then even ask that if you do morning meetings or any of those type of environments, say, hey, team, how can we add value to each other? How can we add value to our clients? How can we serve them? How can we service them? One of the myths or misconceptions sometimes is that servant leadership is a scary word, because they hear servant leadership, but they translate it as subservient leadership. And no, you're not. There's not saying you're a slave to your people. This is saying you're a leader that also serves your people. So I would really work on asking those 2 questions just to increase that whole self-awareness. And then communication skills is, John Maxwell tells you that leadership is influence, nothing more, nothing less. Influence is built on trust, and trust is built on effective communication. And this is the whole, you mentioned about EQ, emotional intelligence, and so forth, that all that stuff is connected, and how you convey your message and how are you consistency, because the people in your work center, every day they wake up and they come in there and they are allowing you to lead them. Give them a reason to be comfortable with them, fulfilling that role. Because then any day they can say, I don't want this anymore. You are not a leader. Position doesn't make you a leader. So being able to have an effective communication and understand that they are allowing you to be their leader, and that it's a privilege to be a leader for people that actually will follow you. So just keep those at mind, because all those things can be taken away overnight.
Yeah, and especially in our industry, there are a lot of choices. There's a lot of salons. There's a lot of opportunity to be independent and be your own boss. So when people choose you in this industry, it really is an honor, and they are really working for you because of the leadership qualities and the leadership that you give. It's not necessarily because of the salon or the space that you provide.
And if you set them up for success, if
Yes.
they go out and, so what if you train them up to so many levels that they go and start their own business. Great, because that person is going to speak highly of you because you gave them the skills and education and resources. Maybe that person's not in a position to hire anybody, but they'll send them your way. And you get to do it over. Now you're building this brand of you are this person that truly cares versus the person that walks out and badmouths you because you weren't. That hurts you just as bad as the other way. So
yeah, reputation is everything. So really understanding that, and again, just serving the people that work for you and wanting the best for them and helping them grow, and celebrating when they do move on, I think is so important. And that's something that I definitely talk to my students about. I think that is another part of leadership, is having that mindset as well.
Yeah, it's a long journey, so just be patient.
It is. How can people find you and learn more about you?
So I have a little PDF checklist with a couple of questions that people can download. So kenllewis.com and then /servant leader. And there's questions they can do for self-awareness. How self-aware are you? And then kind of rate yourself on some areas. Is this a strength for you, or is this a place that you struggled? And then on the backside, some organizational areas. Are you hiring the right people, putting them in the right places, and stuff like that? So they can go to Ken L. Lewis, LEWIS.com/servant leader to grab that and use it. And then if they have any questions or need to kind of hit on it, then by all means they can reach out and kind of explain a little bit more about some of those tools and questionings and the reason behind them.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being on today's podcast. And I loved all the information that you shared. I feel like it's so relevant to our industry. Leadership, I think, is one of the missing pieces. So any knowledge or information on that, I think, is so powerful for all of the salon owners and even stylists. Stylists can be leaders inside of their salons too, especially seasoned stylists or stylists that are really, really well seasoned. I think it's really powerful for everyone to have some sort of leadership quality.
Of course, we go home and we're all leaders, and it's just a matter of how much responsibility do we want to take at a different environment, right? It's like, it was one of the things, like, there's no reason for anybody to come in and yell and try to be a dictator, because I'm pretty sure there's a lot of decisions every human being makes at home on their own. They bought a house, they bought a car, they had a family, they have a child, all these critical life skills and life decisions they made. They don't need you to tell them how to do everything, but this is your domain, so they respect you while you're in it, but don't abuse it, right? So absolutely.
I love that. Thank you so much. And I'm so glad you have wonderful resources for salon owners to utilize to really start the process of transforming their leadership. And thank you so much for being on the podcast.
My pleasure. Thank you. And I look forward to adding value to your clients.